Are you ready to hoist the colors? Now, time for the most in-depth look at the world of ECU athletics. Welcome in to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Now, here's your host, Stephen Igo.
Welcome in Hoist the Colors on this Monday, September 2nd, this Victory Monday. Man, it has been too long since we said that. Of course, they were few and far between last season, but we have a game under our belts and we have a Pirate victory to discuss. It is a reaction Monday. We'll be doing this after every game day, although I guess we have a few Thursday night games this season, so we'll have reaction Friday a couple times. But we'll be taking your calls starting in segment 2 if you'd like to call in. We have a ton of tweets, comments, so keep those rolling. We'll get to those over the course of the next hour. If you're watching live on Facebook or YouTube or X, drop your comment, question, concern there. We'll try to get to as many as we can over the next hour. Philip Pilkington is producing. We'll get his thoughts on the Pirates' big win over Norfolk State on Saturday. Of course, always remember, folks, to subscribe on 94.3 The Game, our YouTube page. Our numbers continue to grow. We started that page brand new when we launched the show last May of 2023. It's really taken off since then. Also, follow us on the HTC 24/7 Twitter account as well as at 943 The Game. We're live streaming through the HTC Twitter, and then we're also live streaming through the 94.3 The Game Facebook. Pirates beat Norfolk State 42-3, 506 yards of offense. They allow 114 yards of offense. Pretty dominant showing. 6 turnovers East Carolina committed. To win a game by 39 points with 6 turnovers probably has to be one of the few times in college football history that has happened. But ECU is 1-0. That's all that matters. I'll give my thoughts shortly. We're also going to hand out some honors for each game this year on Monday. We'll do that here shortly as well. But Philip Pilkington, we'll start. Your thoughts. Pirates are 1-0.
Well, first off, Stephen, I hope you're
choked up already.
I know. Sorry. Choked up. Now, I hope that your windpipes are ready because you know that Mark Yellock is going to make you sing the fight song on Thursday. True. So you better get that voice box ready, Stephen. So
I'm ready.
There you go. But initial thoughts, hey, we got to win. And look, it wasn't perfect, and I think that's what made it great, right? Like, there was adversity, and the team never changed its mood, changed its energy, changed its willingness to execute despite 6 turnovers, like you said. And one of them was obviously very wonky. One of them was just a heck of a play by the defender. So, they weren't all on the Pirates, but still 6 turnovers. And like you said, a 39-point victory is pretty special.
So I asked the fans to come up with one thing that stood out from the game. We'll get to their take or what stood out the most from the game. I'll ask you, Philip, the one specific thing, if you could point it out, offense, defense, special teams, or you could go big picture with the 39-point victory. What stood out the most to you?
I think the thing that definitely stood out the most was we finally gave the ball to our tight ends. 3 receiving touchdowns by tight ends. That is 50% more than the entire season last year when there were only 2, all by Shane Calhoun. So we're throwing the ball to the tight ends, baby. What else can stick out from that game?
That is right. Garcia Rouse, 3 catches, 57 yards, 2 tutties, first 2 tutties of his career. Is that lame to call them tutties?
Heck no.
All right. I mean, I feel like when you get 2, it becomes tutties. Like, if you score 1 time, it's just a touchdown. But if you get multiple, we're going tutties.
Correct.
Garcia Rouse, 2 touchdowns. Casey Kelly, 3 catches, 35 yards and a score in his East Carolina debut. Tyler Savage, 1 catch, 25 yards. Philip, that is 7 catches from the tight ends, over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns in a single game of Pirate football. You don't see that too much. Anthony Smith, I thought, had a really good game, 5 catches, 86 yards and a score. Let's talk about Jake Garcia. I mean, that was honestly one of the, I don't want to say weirdest, but I guess it kind of was weirdest debuts, Philip, from the standpoint of he threw 3 picks, but it didn't matter. And if you were playing a real opponent that had a shot to win, it would matter a lot more than it did. But the thing I like most is it didn't change his game or his mentality at all. Or if it did, he didn't show it. He was still slinging the ball downfield. He wasn't afraid to throw deep after getting picked on a couple of deep balls. He didn't shy away from the glance route off the RPO after getting picked on that one. And so, we heard so much about Garcia being the same guy regardless of what happens, and we finally saw that play out. Now, look, you got to clean up the turnovers. 3 picks in a half of football can't happen, but it also was his first time playing in nearly 2 full years. So I thought more than anything, Philip, I saw really good arm talent, good composure, the ability to make some pre-snap reads and adjustments as well. I thought he got better with the RPO game. The quarterbacks are having to decide so much in the system on the fly after the snap. It's a lot on their plate. I would say just the reading of the safety on the 2 picks is going to be his biggest thing to clean up going forward. The first pick was kind of a great play by the safety coming down. He just needed to put a little more air on her. He made the right read, I think, on the glance route off the RPO, but threw it too shallow, and the guy made a leaping pick. So I don't know. What did you make of Jake Garcia's Pirate debut?
I really liked it, and we mentioned if there were 3 interceptions, would that have cost you more in a closer game? Yeah, of course it would have, but also, do those plays get made? I thought he kind of played with reckless abandon, which is a good thing, which is what you want to see against an FCS team and a guy who hasn't made a start in 2 years. I thought he looked so free out there. Like you said, despite what had happened on the previous drive, and not only did his failures or his his trials, not hinder him, but when he was triumphant, it didn't hinder him on the next drive either. It was the same even keel the whole time. And so, yeah, look, is there a few throws he wish he had back? Yeah, but like I said, the first one, the guy made a heck of a play. The second one, he was a little behind the receiver, but he kind of fell down. The third one, yeah, that was a bad ball. But, hey, you know what? You do what you got to do, and you live and you learn. And at the end of the day, you play the game to win the game, and we won a football game.
Chase Braswell, Facebook, way too many points left on the board. He says, good win, a lot to improve on. He says we can't make that many mistakes against ODU. Definitely agree, Chase. Tony Hicks adds receiving core. Impressed me with their effort after the receptions. They worked hard for extra yards. I did think the yards after the catch, the broken tackles after the catch were much better than last year. And I thought overall just some very good individual performances. Now, again, Norfolk State, it's your easiest game on the schedule for a reason. You pay them money to come here and get a win. Basically, I'm not going to say a free win, but a game you should win. This for me, Phil, but overall, it went about how I expected. The defense was maybe even more dominant than I thought they'd be. I mean, for the number of plays Norfolk State ran and the amount of minutes they held onto the ball, for them to only finish with 114 yards is pretty incredible. The offense, like we knew it was going to look a little choppy. First game, a lot of new players, quarterback making a first start in nearly 2 full years. I guess there were some people that expected them to just roll out there and put up 70 points. Now, certainly I didn't expect 6 turnovers, one of those on special teams. One of them kind of, 2 really fluke plays with the snap and the Caden Hauser fumble. But, to me, the biggest thing I took away, Philip, is this offense fits ECU. You've got the skill talent to run it. You've got the pace, the tempo. You now have a quarterback that can make all the throws. I mean, he made some throws on Saturday that ECU didn't make all of last year in all 12 games. So I just think the potential of the offensive scheme, it's such a better fit for ECU. The talent is there. And that was my main takeaway from this game. Does it pass the eye test? And for me, it passed the eye test. Yes, there's a lot to clean up, but this team can be good if it all comes together is my biggest takeaway coming out of the opener.
Yeah, it definitely can be. And, you mentioned the defense. That's the biggest reason ECU won by as many points as they did is because there were so many 3-and-outs. Because, like you said, only the 114 yards, averaged just under 1 yard per carry did the Spartans. And, going to the offensive side of things, one of the things I really like, too, with this receiving core, yes, there was yards after catch, but I love the physicality. There were balls that were caught in traffic. I saw Anthony Smith line up on the end of the line of scrimmage as a tight end one time. We were in trips right. We were heading from left to right across the television screen if you were watching, or you're from the press box. I believe it was the second quarter. And you've got your big-time wide receiver with his hand in the ground playing tight end in the formation, he's a tight end, even though he's not a tight end. And that just shows you how much faith they have in the physicality of these receivers. And sure enough, he got bumped hard by the linebacker, but he still got a pretty clean release. He was able to stem his route and get open. I don't think he got the ball thrown to him on said play, but the point is he was open. And the versatility within this offense, both with the tight ends, with the wide receivers, even with the running backs, is really going to allow John David Baker to open up this playbook in ways that we didn't even see this past Saturday night, because of the fact that you feel comfortable that you can win without showing some of those things.
Yeah, and I liked it, Philip, from the standpoint of we had a huge conversation about what do you show game one. You know, you're trying to go out there, set the tone, let it all hang out. This is a new era. I would say on the scale of 1 to 10, we saw about a 5 or 6 of what I've seen in scrimmages as far as versatility, different looks, motions, options, just all sorts of stuff that's still on the table that they can break out at any moment. Now, of course, you're not going to go into a game with all that, and they also put just enough on tape with the motions, with using some guys in different ways. And now ODU has to prepare for a lot in a short amount of time. So I think they found a good balance there. I thought John David Baker called a great game for his first career play calling duties as a first-time full-time OC. I thought the game flowed well. Obviously, a lot is based upon what the quarterback's doing with the RPOs, but I thought he put Jake Garcia and the offense in really good situations. And I thought the tempo, the offense got more used to it as the game went on. It just seemed to settle down a lot in the second half for the most part. All right, let's talk about our game honors. All right, so we're going to do this every week. We've got five categories, and we're going to go best play, best drive, defensive player of the game, offensive player of the game, and MVP. We're going to do this every Reaction Monday or Reaction Friday later this year, coming off each and every game. We will start with the best play from ECU's 42-3 victory over Norfolk State. We may land on the same one here, Philip, but let's hear yours first. I'll let you kick it off.
I'm going to have to go with the pick six. I mean, anytime the defense can go out there and make a play, turn it into points themselves, and that's always a momentum swing in the game. Yeah, it was a 42-3 football game, but if you prove yourself you can make those plays, and you can make those plays in big moments and bigger games, that could be the difference in, a conference championship and sitting at home that first Friday night, or that second Friday night in December.
Gavin Gibson with the 30-yard pick six made a really athletic play on the football and snagged it out of the air. I thought watching it live from the press box, it was about to be a completion. Little underthrown by Jalen Daniels, a Norfolk State quarterback, and Gavin Gibson takes it, runs it back. And I have to give that my play of the game as well, Philip. And honestly, it's making I think we both had under 1.5 defensive touchdowns on the year. We're both not off to a good start there.
And I was thinking the same thing as he was running down the sideline. I was like, dang, well, hey, if we want this to hit, tackle it to one. But, hey, I will happily be wrong on that.
No doubt. This defense has now scored 4 times in the last 11 games dating back to App State last year. That's pretty dang impressive. Hey, my honorary play of the game didn't count. Jake Garcia's touchdown pass to Kerry King, phenomenal throw, great catch. That was a thing of beauty. Was called back due to an illegal man downfield, but I thought that was a very good play. All right, best drive. I'll start this one off. Really, there were a lot of short fields, and that made it tough for the offense to go on some extended marches. But the big I'm here moment, I would say, for this offense was in the first quarter. 4 plays, 76 yards, 1 minute, 3 seconds it took ECU to go the length of the football field just about. They take a 14-3 lead. He hit the big passing play to Anthony Smith. He loses his shoe, still lines up, and ends up blocking for Javius Bond's 14-yard run on the other side of the field. But that was kind of like, all right, this offense may be a little bit different than last year. That's my drive of the game, Philip.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you because, I mean, the fact that you had technically you only had one explosive play because you only had one play over 20 yards, but you had a 19-yard play in there, the 38-yard pass you mentioned, and capping it off with a 14-yard touchdown run that would have been more probably had the end zone not been there to stop his gaining of the yards, of course. And like you said, that is what East Carolina fans have been asking for since the end of the Holton Ahlers era.
Defensive player of the game, who are you going with here, Philip?
Well, we talked before. We both gave a lot of credit to the D line, and I think that's kind of where you're going. So that we finally don't have the same one. I'm gonna go with Zakai Barker, just because, with the exception of the one time we had to burn it, our second time out, maybe it was the first, where there was a lapse in coverage. I think he did a great job communicating what he was hearing in his helmet to everybody. It seems like everybody always knew their assignment, and most communication was coming through him. So great job there. First game ever with in-helmet communication.
So I like the pick. I'm actually going Gavin Gibson as well here, just because I think anytime you score and you get a handful of tackles, you got to be defensive player of the game. Now, I mean, you could pick just about anybody defensively, but Gavin Gibson, first game after transferring in from Maryland. He's a Huff High School product, former high school teammate of Isaiah Brown Murray, so they're kind of playing in the secondary together again. I thought they played well together, and also Kingston McKinstry was out due to injury. So that allowed Gibson to get the start, and I thought he played well. I give him my defensive player of the game. All right, offensive player of the game. Who you got, Philip?
I'm going to go Jake Garcia. I know he turned the ball over a handful of times, but it's how he responded to said turnovers, how he stayed even keel, everything we talked about earlier gives it to him for me.
I was torn between Garcia and also Anthony Smith. I ended up going Anthony Smith. 17.2 yards per catch, 5 grabs, 86 yards, and a score. Really, Philip, he showed me – I didn't know he had that type of ability after the catch. Now, I don't think he's going to be like this monstrous yak guy, but I just think we kind of had – I had this vision, I guess, and this was a lot based off what NC State people told me. He's going to run go routes, and he's going to struggle to catch the ball. Well, to be honest, in the opener, yeah, he ran some go routes, but he made all his plays underneath and after the catch. So I think now, if you're Old Dominion, you got to prepare for that on film. And what is that going to do? That's going to open up the top, and I think you're going to see him make some plays there over the course of the season. So I want Anthony Smith, my offensive player of the game. All right, most valuable person, MVP. You can go player here or coach or a collection of coaches or players. What are you doing, Philip?
I don't know. Well, for both of these, I'm going to give an honorable mention to London Montgomery because what a day for him. But I'm going to go the D-line just kind of as a group here. Look, anytime they have less than 1 yard to carry, it's probably because you're winning the point of attack. So, look, those linebackers flew downhill. Yeah, they made the tackles, but there was a lot of lanes for them to fly down through because of the D-line doing their job.
I'm going to kind of go off of that. I'm just going to go with Blake Harrell, and I'm also going to give a hat tip to Roy Tesh because he's been coaching that defensive lineup for many years now. And look, man, Norfolk State, 1 of 18 on third down, 114 yards total. I think they averaged like 2 or 3 yards per play. They averaged less than 1 yard per rush. And that was with them owning the time possession 36-25 to 23-35. So Blake Harrell and company getting it done. Obviously a lot of attention on the offense. But, look, ECU should have dominated this game. They did. They met their goal. They met their challenge. And I got to give some kudos to the defensive side of the ball specifically for that. All right, we're going to get our first break in. Great job, Philip, with our initial game honors. We are going to open it up to phone calls if you want to call in on this Labor Day. 252-561-8255 is the number. Again, 252-561-8255 if you want to chime in on ECU season opener. Otherwise, we'll continue to read your comments. We got a lot to get to on Twitter, and keep them coming on YouTube and Facebook as well. This is Hoist the Colors on a Reaction Monday.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern Living's best small town.
Pirate game days, there's nothing like them. The atmosphere, first down, the traditions, the matchups, the magical finishes. Be a part of Pirate Game Days. Season tickets are as low as $115. Reserve your seat today to be a part of the experience of Pirate Game Days at Dowdy Ficklin Stadium this fall.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
This is ECU head football coach Mike Houston, and you're listening to Hoist the Colors on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in on this Labor Day. It is Monday, September 2nd. Again, if you would like to call in, chime in on the air, 252-561-8255 is the number, 252-561-8255. Philip Pilkington is producing. He'll take your calls. We'll also weigh in starting now on your comments on social media. What we'll do is I'll run over the best ones, and if we want to expand on it, we will certainly do that. I have a few in mind I would like to expand on. We'll start with Nathaniel Horton on X says, the defense was elite. The offense gave me hope. The band sounded good. It was great to be back in Dowdy Ficklin Stadium with 36,000 true Pirates. And I'm excited for ODU on Saturday in App in 2 weeks. Yeah, I do want to talk maybe at some point, not today, about the new third down song, Philip. That goes in line with the money down theme of the ECU defense, but I know some fans aren't happy about it, so we'll discuss that later this week. Martin says the portal transfers really made an impact. The turnovers, if not corrected, are going to be major issues going forward. And number 3 for Martin is the ability on offense to move efficiently down the field, and tempo has the potential to create something special. I mean, how many of the players, Philip, we named were portal guys? And I really thought, Mike Houston hit on after the game. Team Boneyard, without the NIL initiative, and look, it's just one game, but it's clear, Philip, that this team is going to have a heavy impact, especially offensively, via the transfer portal, and I think we saw that in a major way. Like Winston Wright in the kickoff returns, we didn't even talk about that. Garcia, Kelly, Anthony Smith, these things aren't happening without NIL.
No, you're right, Stephen. They're not. And, I have a lot of faith that this NIL collective can produce when you look at nothing more than the attendance numbers from the American Athletic Conference over this weekend. We led all of our competitors in attendance. We were only a smidge over South Florida, only by about 200 people, but everyone else we blew out of the water. And so go get you some good Boneyard brew, because that stuff is pretty good. I already bought some Friday night. And, hey, like you said, look, it's the era of college football, and we're a high enough program right now where somebody's got to recruit the freshmen, but I think the freshmen will be recruited more at the FCS level and, the MAC and the Sun Belt and things like that. And then the East Carolinas and up of the world will kind of more recruit the portal and less of the high school. Not saying you can't get high school guys. It's great to have a guy here for 4 years, a guy to really buy into the culture. But look, it's part of what college football is right now, what college athletics are, and it was on full force on Saturday night.
Pack the Jungle says the turnovers were the only negative for me. However, two look like wide receiver quarterback communication that will get fixed. He says, regardless of the turnovers, we were still in control. We also had a few plays called back on some O-linemen downfield, which is easily fixed. The defense was better than expected, and I had high expectation. He adds, the absolutely dominated the point of attack. We'll know more next week. So good thoughts there from Pack the Jungle. Mark Miller. You can hear him on IBX Media on 107.9 WNCT. He says the rushing total, especially when factoring in the number of rushes from Norfolk State, this run defense made a statement. A lot of comments about how good the defense looked. Brad hit on, pleased to see complimentary football. Very good offense, defense, and special teams. Especially impressed by the way our receivers caught the football. Yeah, I mean, Winston Wright is going to take one back this year on kickoff, maybe multiple. And Philip, we had in the preseason, will ECU return a punt for a touchdown as a team for the first time since 2004? I think if Javius Bond stays healthy, which is a big if. Look, they're going to limit his reps early this season. He has a tendency to get hurt, pull a hamstring, whatnot. I think Javius Bond is going to do it because that dude is electric. There were a few times on Saturday I thought he was going to bring it back, and I think just with his potential. I mean, there was one time he was spinning out of a tackle. He got hit head on and somehow broke that tackle. I can't remember. I think that play ended up being called back for a penalty, but that dude is electric. Really looking forward to seeing him. I thought the special teams looked pretty darn good, Philip, on Saturday.
I go, they did, but come on. You predicted no punt return for a touchdown at the beginning of the year so that you could reverse jinx it, and we'd get one. And now you're changing your darn prediction, and now we're not going to return a punt for a touchdown. It's going to be all your fault.
No.
I'm blaming you when nobody returns a punt for a touchdown. Dang it. Come on, man.
To be
but
fair,
no, you're right. They look good.
I'm still hoping my prediction comes true of no punt return for a touchdown because I need to win that pool. That's all that matters is who wins.
I think we all said no.
What doesn't matter is what happens on the actual game. But no, man, I feel like ECU in general, Philip, has, I don't want to say been too safe on punt return, but they have tended to go with the guy who's just going to call for a fair catch or maybe get 7 yards. No offense to Malik Fleming, that was kind of him. He was not very fast. I think he ended up running a 4.84 40-yard dash on NFL Pro Day at Houston, but I need some electricity back there, man. I know there's a risk with the injury, but I also want to see a punt return. But then again, I don't because that's what I picked.
Well, no, I get what you're saying with the conservative thing, but you've got to be, to an extent, conservative because the last thing you want is a muff punt. And you force a 3 and out, and then you give them a short field. I mean, look, I want to see anybody return a punt for a touchdown. It's great to see, But I grew up watching Devin Hester. It was awesome. But at the end of the day, I would rather have the ball at our own 35-yard line and have the ball than give them the ball back. So, and also, man, punters are just getting better at hang time. Georgia's punter last year, every single punt he punted was either fair caught or downed. He did not have a single return because of his hang time. And I'm talking about the team who's arguably the best team in the country. But the point is, punters have gotten so much better at hang time as well as distance, and punt returns just in general are just, it's kind of a thing of the past. So at the end of the day, because somebody's going to get back there and catch the darn ball so we don't have issues. And we already had one turnover on a punt return, which that was nobody's fault. I mean, that right there,
that was
what
a
happened.
horrific punt.
Yeah, look, what happened right there is my pet peeve. When a guy calls poison or pee or whatever it is, I've always said, why do the anti-gunners keep blocking? You should turn and dart to the sidelines. Well, guess what? Our guy turned and darted to the sidelines, and that was the worst
he did
luck
exactly what he's supposed to do
in the history of football. So that was terrible, but that was nobody's fault. But hey, he was doing the right thing. That's what I liked. I hate when those guys are sitting there still blocking. It's like, what are you blocking the guy for? And then it hits off the back of their knee. So anyways, that's my tangent. But yeah, so no, get a guy who can get back there and catch it. I don't care if he can return it. I just want him to catch it.
I mean, that's the thing is there were some people saying, what was Andrew Wilson-Lamp doing? He was doing exactly what he's supposed to do. The punt was just so bad. It was unfortunate that it clipped his heel and ended up being a fumble recovery. I still have no idea, Philip, what the refs were talking about illegal touching. I guess they were trying to say it touched Norfolk State first. I don't know. That was just a really weird sequence. But either way,
the
turnover. Yeah, you're the ref, so explain it.
The kicking team cannot legally catch the ball when it's in the air unless it is like 100%. Like you'll see them sometimes like catch it at the 1 when there's no one from the return team anywhere near. But if someone from the return team is still making like a somewhat effort, they can't touch the ball when it's in the air. And the one kid, it came down and it almost grazed his right bicep. And maybe they thought that's what caused it to take that 90-degree hop towards the East Carolina sideline. So that's what they thought. And it's not a penalty illegal touching. It's just the ball's dead, I believe, because they didn't actually throw a flag. And it's one of those rules that's like it's different enforcement, college, pro, high school kind of things because it's a weird rule. But, yeah, that's why they said what they said, and then they realized that it never touched whoever that gunner was, and then unfortunately it touched us.
Good thoughts. Good explanation there from Philip, the ref Pilkington. Been a while since we dropped the ref on the show. All right, we had a few questions we'll get to before we take our break. Ryan Benner asked, how was the intro video? I thought the intro video was maybe the best I've seen at East Carolina. It incorporated the history of the program. It incorporated pregame speeches. It incorporated Steve Logan with the great soundbite. You know, if you're at East Carolina, you go for it every time. Obviously, said it a little bit more emphatic than what I just did. But I thought it had past players, legends, current players. I mean, I thought the video was perfect. And it had Hoist the Colors prior to kickoff. Although they still didn't bring back Keira Knightley. They got the players singing it instead. So I'm a fan. Did you see any of that, Philip? The intro video?
I kind of saw bits and pieces.
In the studio?
Well, no, I was in the booth, but the problem was during the actual intro video, I think I was doing my second scoreboard update. So like Kevin Monroe was trying to like lean out the window so he could get a view and try and like, I think, tone out the sound of my voice. But I did like the Hoist Colors thing. It was good to see that back because like you said, Keira wasn't back, but I remember a couple years back, they didn't have any Hoist the Colors mentioned at all. Yeah. I don't know what they had last year because I didn't get to go to any games because I was in the studio, but yeah, I still want Keira back though. She's prettier than the players. No offense, boys.
Yeah, look, I love Elijah Morris, but Keira Knightley is a little bit better to look at. Sorry, Eli. All right, let's get a break in. We'll come back. We had a question about the offensive line. I'll address that. The Pro Football Focus grades are out, evaluating the gameplay, and ECU's offensive line graded out really well. We'll tell you why, how they performed in pass pro, and more. This is Hoist the Colors.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Hey Glenn, let's talk about a new program at Greenville Nissan.
Sure, sometimes bad things happen to good people, like credit hiccups.
Greenville Nissan just rolled out credit forgiveness.
If you've been making consistent car payments and you're tired of that high interest rate, this program is for you.
Get into a new Nissan with a manageable payment and keep that cash in the bank.
Come visit us at Greenville Nissan and drive your Nissan home today.
Hurry, this program ends September 3rd. Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arrgh!
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in Color and let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
Here there be pirates. Back to Hoist the Colors with Steve and Igo. How good is this? On 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors here on this Monday, a Reaction Monday. On the show, we'll be doing this again every week throughout the year on Mondays and telling you our thoughts on the game, also reading yours and more, as we still have some questions to get to on social media. We had a comment or a question asking us to comment on the offensive line. I would say, in general, the offensive line did what it needed to do. Now, the running game, a little sloppy at times in terms of running and execution when I watched it back, but you have to understand, too, the one thing is, we all watch it as fans, and if you watch it, most people are just watching the quarterback get the snap, hand it off. If a guy gets tackled in the backfield, most people just assume, where's the blocking? Norfolk State was committing, in many cases, more to the run than they were to the pass. So some of the time you had the quarterback either misread the RPO because he's got the run-pass option to hand it off after the snap or throw it. Other times, Norfolk State just run blitzed, right, had a good call and stopped the run. Other times, though, you had good execution, positive yardage. At the end of the day, ECU average 4.2 yards per carry, which is solid. They graded out, I would say, above average offensively in the run blocking side of things per Pro Football Focus on the offensive front. The pass blocking was actually really good. Parker Moore did give up 1 sack, but he did finish as the team's highest graded offensive lineman per PFF's initial grading. Jake Garcia was only pressured 4 times over the course of the entire game, which is a really good number. So offensive line-wise, I thought things went really well. We talked about the transfers earlier. Darius Bell, the transfer from Maine, had a pretty clean game. Dustin Hall, the one thing that they need to clean up, I think, is the snaps. They had a few snaps that were off to the side. Still don't know exactly what happened. Philip Pilkington producing today on the fumble near the goal line. DeCirio Riles, it hit him as he was coming in motion. Not even in motion. He was coming across the formation to block as the ball was being snapped. So clearly there was a timing error there. I don't know if he's supposed to do like a step, jab step to the left for cutting back right, but that'll be something we can ask Mike Houston about today in the press conference. But I thought overall the offensive line did what it needed to do, but it'll be a much bigger test going forward. Any thoughts there, what you saw from the Pirates up front?
Yeah, they look good, right? The ones look good. The twos looked great, but and we saw London Montgomery be able to hit those big holes that were there. But, it's tough to tell because when you talk about the FBS to FCS fall off, the majority of it is in the trenches. Size is different. Skill set is a lot different than it is on the outside. So did they look good? Sure. Do I feel confident in their ability moving forward? Absolutely. Was this the be-all, say-all of the season? No. So, look, at the end of the day, like I said, 4 pressures, great number. Didn't get to see the running back lit up in the backfield a lot. And like you said, it may have been a wrong read on an RPO because there was a lot of RPOs, Jake Garcia looks to be pretty good on the RPO so far, but he's no Jalen Hurts yet. So, kind of is what it is, and we'll see what happens when the competition is of your level next week. And I think there was some good, there was some bad, a lot to work on, and pack it up and get ready for Saturday.
No doubt. Lots to still clean up, and I would say much more bigger test ahead that we'll know a lot more. ODU, I've watched the first half of ODU South Carolina, or much of it, and I would say their defensive front, much bigger test than what Norfolk State did. All right, Robert says at the press conference, can you ask if the running back London Montgomery did enough to move up the depth chart? And he wants to know is JDB not commenting on if Chase Sowell will be back for the ODU game. So a couple things here. Look, I know Leonard Montgomery looked good. Let's keep in mind he was in at the end of the game, second string in for both sides for the most part. And look, he does look good with the ball in his hands. There is much more to playing the running back position than just carrying the ball into a specific gap and getting positive yards. Obviously, that's a big portion of it, but you got pass protection, you've got understanding the scheme, you've got the leadership qualities, or catching the ball in the backfield. There's a lot that running backs have to do. So I'm not saying London Montgomery can't do that in time, but just because he looked good, basically carrying the ball doesn't mean he's going to immediately shoot up the depth chart. I mean, we saw Camaro Edmonds look really good against Gardner Webb a few years ago, or last year, I guess it was, and never really played that much again. So I do expect London Montgomery to have a big part of this team's future, especially at running back, the Penn State transfer. He's just a redshirt freshman. I do think he deserves more touches. I think Javius Bond needs more touches, and Marlon Gunn as well. So they're trying to balance that room. But certainly a fair question. There's just a lot more than just carrying the ball, though. As far as Chase Sowell, I would say questionable at this time. Mike Houston, his policy is not really to open up on injuries. And to be honest, Philip, I don't blame him. There's no mandated injury report. I think one day there will be with the way the sports betting and all this is going. But why tell ODU if your wide receiver one is going to be back? Keep him in the dark. We'll have our best knowledge as the week progresses. I think he could play, but I think it was pretty promising. The receivers looked as good as they did without him.
I think it was, and to your point, yeah, keep it in the dark. If we were living in the 1800s and he could maybe tell everybody in town and it wouldn't make its way up to Norfolk, he doesn't care if our fans know. But again, you don't want the opponent to find out because he doesn't have to. But what I loved about that game is there were 9 different receivers, and this included tight ends though, that caught the ball in the first half. And we talked about the depth at receiver last week and how we would expect 6 to 7 guys to rotate throughout the 3 positions. We didn't only see 6 to 7 guys on the field, but we saw all those guys catching the ball and making plays. And, to your point about wanting to see running backs with more touches, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying, but, we always say there's only one ball. Well, this year, with the depth at running back, with the depth at tight end, with the depth at wide receiver, we're going to be saying that a lot. There's only one football, and I think there's a lot of weapons on this team. They've done a good job of going out and building a very deep roster with the offensive skill positions. So some games you're not going to see the guys you want to see, but it doesn't mean that the coaches don't like them or they're not producing. It's just how the game plan works out that day because at the end of the day, there's only one ball.
No doubt. Tough to get everybody all the touches they need. And that's a good problem to have because last year you couldn't find enough guys to get touches too because the talent just wasn't there. The scheme really wasn't there at times as well. All right. We are recapping again ECU's 42-3 win over Norfolk State on this Reaction Monday. We'll return now to some of your comments on Twitter. And we had a comment from Ryan Cole. He says, Jake Garcia's arm strength is going to be a big asset for us this year. The accuracy and decision should get cleaned up, but he has a cannon, which is something we really haven't had in a while. Yeah, I mean, some of the throws he made, you could see the 4 or 5-star talent, which he was out of high school. And Jamie Franks adds, CJ Mims was his biggest standout from the game. Every time you interview a defensive line guy, they mention CJ. So I made a point to watch him when he was in. Yeah, CJ Mims doesn't get talked about a lot because his defensive line is so old. But the Wes Craven product, he graded out really good as well. The eye test, the PFF grades, everything stood out for sure. All right, Bot, my good friend Brandon Bot. I can't read some of the words he tweeted at us, Philip, but he says, what stood out to me the most is Norfolk State is basically not good and not a real test, is the nice way of saying it. He says these next 2 games will be the real test for us. However, it was so obvious what a real offensive coordinator can do, a quarterback that can make good decisions for the most part, and we didn't even have Sowell. So, I mean, I do feel like that kind of sums up most fans' thoughts. Like, yeah, this wasn't a test, but I would say the eye test, speaking of test, it just looked kind of night and day difference when you look at the talent, the scheme, and everything. So I think fans are still in wait-and-see mode based on a lot of these comments, but a lot more promise. I keep hearing, well, ECU beat Gardner Webb last year. I don't even think ECU had like 350 yards of offense in the Gardner Webb game. It was ugly. Yes, this was ugly in some regards, but ECU in this game alone had more yards than they did all of last season, and they probably left 100 to 150 yards and a couple touchdowns on the table with the turnovers. So a lot of encouraging things, but I think a lot of fans are in wait and see mode, which is also fair.
Yeah, it is. I mean, how can you not be? Like you said, you won 44-0 last year and you win 2 games. So you have to be, but you're right. The eye test, they looked a lot better Saturday night than they did against Gardner-Webb last year. But the good thing is, hey, there were some rust. We talked about the 6 turnovers. We've talked about a mistimed snap, or maybe it was a mistimed motion. And, the good thing is you started out with an SCS opponent and you got to work out those kinks because there is no preseason. Yes, you scrimmage each other, but there's no joint practices. There's no preseason, and you can't mimic game reps without actually having game reps. So I think this team still looks night and day better than it did last year, but everybody is right in saying, hey, look, this is the worst team you're going to play all year, and it's only going to get tougher from here. So you have nothing to celebrate. You have nothing to feel great about, but you can be cautiously optimistic. I think that's good to do, and but you can also be cautious because again, you beat an FCS team by a few more points last year than we saw last year turned up.
All right, let's get our final break in. We'll come back. We will continue to read these comments. Again, if you got any final thoughts, drop them on Twitter or Facebook, YouTube. We'll try to get to them as we wrap up Reaction Monday after this.
We're down to the final days of our summer sales event at Greenville Toyota.
Lease new RAV4s, $319 a month. Test drive the redesigned 2025 Camry, all with our advantage.
It's your last chance to save at Greenville Toyota.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
Let's go! Woo! Woo! Yeah! Football time!
Set the tone. Kyle, take your shoes, take your shoes. Yeah, good job.
Woo! Yeah!
Grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
Summer is here, and Sawyer's Fun Park is having a toddler summer special. From 10 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday through Friday, Sawyer's has a $10 2-hour unlimited pass for ages 2 to 4. That's one toddler and one parent for just $10 every weekday morning. Sawyer's Fun Park summer hours are Monday through Thursday from 10 to 8, Fridays and Saturdays from 10 to 9, and Sundays from 12 to 8. Book your tickets online at SawyersFunPark.com and beat the heat this summer at Sawyer's Fun Park.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Everybody loves tiebreakers.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked to order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Hurry, the summer savings event is coming to an end. Don't miss your chance.
Enjoy your summer in a new Corolla for just $219 a month or a Highlander for only $399 a month. Got a trade? Get cash for it or trade for a new Toyota.
Hurry into Greenville Toyota today.
All right, let's go. Back to Hoist the Colors with Steve and Igo.
Drink up, me hearty yo-ho.
On 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors on this Reaction Monday. It is Monday, September 2nd. We are recapping the team's big win over Norfolk State, 42-3. That final. All right, we have a few more comments to get to on today's program. I'm going to read those on Twitter before we get out of here today. All right, so Troy says we were trying to score every play, which was refreshing. We look like a football team. Size, speed, midriffs, and horse collars. Can we get Jake some wristbands is what Troy wants to know. And Pirate Treasure NC adds defense looked great. Special teams looked improved. Offense looked a lot better than last year, but those turnovers, both quarterbacks had first drive jitters, only to look a lot better on the second crack at it. Diversity of options in the offensive attack adds Pirate Treasure. All right, some other thoughts here from fans. Jeff says it's pretty obvious that if the offensive line can just play at a C level and the turnovers are an anomaly, we can contend for a title. You can tell the scheme is there despite the appropriate vanilla calls yesterday. The skill positions he had have the necessary explosiveness. Keep that defense healthy. Dennis Barber says the high-paced offense took me back about 10 years. The defense did what I thought they'd do in shutting Norfolk State down, even with the turnovers by the offense, and no doubt tougher test to wait. But it's nice to be excited about the possibilities for this season. All right, Philip, yeah, I mean, that's one thing as I was watching Lincoln Riley and USC last night. I'm not going to say that this is the same scheme because it's not, but certainly some elements of it. And I'm not going to say John David Baker's Lincoln Riley, but the offense, and I get that ECU had some RPO things going on with Donnie Kirkpatrick, but it just feels like it's so much of a better fit for East Carolina. So very excited to see where this thing heads going forward in that regard. But I think it's one thing, when you just see the confidence and the belief in the players, the whole attitude just seemed night and day different from a year ago with the players' confidence and just coming off the field with emotion, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this scheme does fit these guys a little better, whereas the ball comes out a little quicker if the offensive line is struggling, which they did a lot last year, but also the confidence in the quarterback. If you go back to last season, that first drive, Mason didn't look bad. Second drive, he throws a pick. And then the third drive, the first play is a running back, I want to say Rajay, out in the flats, wide open. He spikes it in the dirt, and it seemed like the whole offense's demeanor changed right there on that play, and they never got it back. Whereas, Jake Garcia throws a pick. We talked about it earlier. He comes out, and he's not fazed at all. So, yeah, there is a scheme difference, but there is a personnel difference. There's more physicality in these receivers. We didn't have drop balls, and that included when guys were – I can't remember who it was. I want to say it was like early fourth quarter. They were moving right to left. There was a slant route, and whoever it was had somebody draped all over their back.
I think it was Winston Wright.
I think it was. And, that play's not made last year. So the scheme is part of it, but the personnel is part of it too. And all those combined are creating that more positive attitude that you mentioned, that more belief in themselves, and as a result is going to give you better results.
I feel like we got to shout out Brock Spalding as well. Last year got some opportunities but didn't maybe perform his best. But I thought not only did he catch the ball well on Saturday, Philip, but he looked aggressive making plays after the catch, and that was a part of his game, much like Anthony Smith, that I didn't really expect. So I feel like we need to mention Brock Spalding as well as a positive. Atticus Ferguson on social media says how much Garcia was able to spread the ball around was a positive for him. He felt like every skill player on offense contributed. We hit on that earlier. And the negative for Atticus, turnovers. He says if that becomes a consistent issue, then it will cost the team games and prevent special season taking place a la special teams in 2022. Shelly, this will be our final comment, and we'll get a brief look at ODU. She says, I like the drive the players had. They showed they wanted to win. I love the blocking for the guy with the ball, whether offense or defense. And she says the interceptions had me a little concerned, but Garcia addressed them. Some haven't played in a year. They haven't played together. She says it was all phenomenal in totality.
That was a good point. The blocking on the defense, when that ball was picked off, man, everybody turned around and headhunted someone on that Norfolk State offense. I like that. Because we didn't even think to point that out.
No doubt, no doubt. It was something that it's a mentality thing. I asked Zakai Barker after the game, and they really do practice it. Like they'll start practice, and it looks kind of silly, Philip, but they'll be over there, and it'll just be like Blake Harrell. He'll just lob the ball to some random defender at the start of practice in this little drill they do, and the whole team has to sprint, basically set up a wall after sprinting to the ball and basically practice a return for a touchdown. But hey, it shows that it works, even though it may look a little silly in that moment. But it's 100 miles an hour. They do it all the time, and it pays off. All right, so we'll look more at Old Dominion in the coming days. We're getting a lot of comments about the Monarchs game and everything there. But Pick'em is basically what it's come down to, although now the line has moved more in ECU's direction. Open at ODU +3, +2.5. Quickly swung in East Carolina's favor. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, Philip. What do you think?
It means that our fan base is more of a degenerate gamblers than Old Dominion's fan base. I don't know. Like, when we went to Old Dominion, a few years back, like, they had fans. The fans were nice. I was treated well, but, like, there weren't a lot of them. The people who cared, but we got a lot more people. And in this first year of sports gambling being legal, this is always going to happen with East Carolina. We play these teams with smaller fan bases. I mean, look, I know our fans. I know our college guys love to gamble, and ECU fans we're college people. We embrace that college town mindset. So yeah.
The sharps are on the Pirates too, though, I think, because I don't think we'd have that sort of line movement this quickly. But maybe ECU fans are just that crazy, and they're just throwing money on it left and right. But either way, should be a fun atmosphere because you're right. Last time ECU was there in 19, Pirates had a lot of fans. I expect a lot of fans here. I know Pirate Owls in the comments section saying they're taking a whole group. So looking forward to that. We'll preview that game all throughout the week. We'll start to turn the page to that tomorrow. We are scheduled to have Macy O'Donnell join us, so we'll join you then at 12 noon. This has been Hoist the Colors. See you tomorrow.
Tune in weekdays at noon for all